Season 2 of HBO's Western series Deadwood, centered around the lawless town of Deadwood in South Dakota, pretty much follows the same bunch of characters in Season 1. You have the likes of Ian McShane's cutthroat saloon owner Al Swearingen, Timothy Oliphant's Seth Bullock, now sheriff of the town, Alma Garrett, whom he is having an affair with, the Doc, Sol, Trixie, Charlie Utter, Cy Tolliver, and numerous other colourful, complex, and memorable characters. Just a few new characters are thrown into the mix. In fact, the way I describe this season is that, much like the previous one, it's so character-driven that there's hardly a story over the course of the 12 episodes or so. But Season 2 has 2 or 3 significant characters that ride into town and shake things up, or what we get is some events that occur, like a main character, for example, receiving a significant injury, and over the course of an episode or two, we see the characters' reactions to said events. Ian McShane as Swearingen is still the main draw, but Deadwood proves that it can hold its own without him, as Swearingen is reduced to being bedridden and out of the picture for the first few episodes. We get further insight in this season into the complex nature of the returning characters, and the new ones are just as interesting. One of the biggest arrivals is the surprise appearance of Seth Bullock's wife, who's come to town with her son to join her husband. What with Seth's affair with Alma, a very publicly known affair, this causes some major awkwardness. One interesting thing that this season did was introduce new characters, or at least one new character that I noticed, who is played by an actor who has already had a role in the show. It's a very strange thing to do. Garrett Dillahunt played Jack McCall, the cowardly killer of Wild Bill Hickok in Season 1, and I was surprised to see an uncannily similar looking new character, Francis Walcott, introduced in Season 2 of the show, who it turned out was also played by Dillahunt. Now this guy comes into town and claims to be working for a very rich and powerful prospector. He struts his stuff in front of the principal characters. I was at a point where it took me a while to work out whether this guy was supposed to be a brand new character played by the same actor, or whether he was the same guy in disguise or something. Interestingly, there's another character that returns, a guy who used to help run a gambling joint in Season 1, and in this one the actor's come back and he's a priest. Quite a different manner of speaking as well. So since the other character was a new one, I assumed this was the case here as well. But it turned out, ironically, this guy was the same character, but had just changed his ways. Very strange. This season is just as gripping and entertaining as the last one. I prefer it to Season 1, because a lot more interesting stuff happens in this season. Little developments and events that cause interesting reactions and interactions between the characters. And of course there's the overarching plot of the imminent annexation of Deadwood, and how characters like Swearingen and Tolliver try to outmaneuver the government officials to retain their power when Deadwood gets handed over to the big man. Everything I loved about Season 1 is amplified in this season. The wonderful dialogue is even more wonderful. To such an extent, there were numerous occasions where I rewinded scenes just to hear characters repeat their intricate and eloquent sentences. It is really funny as well. In particular, one fantastic scene where the Chinese Wu tries to communicate something to a character with his limited English capacity. All he can pretty much say is cocksucker. I also love the immersive sense of lived-in realism, the grounded and gritty feel that this is a real, functioning town. There were so many scenes where I was impressed with the effort undertook to achieve this sense of lived-inness. There was one scene, for example, where a character is at a graveyard, paying her respects, and she and the graveyard are in the foreground, they are in focus. But the way the scene is shot, you can see the town centre from a distance, all blurry and out of focus. But you can still see the people moving around, the horse carriages and all of that, and it was so far away. I was thinking, imagine having to set up the shot here in the graveyard and simultaneously have all those people and horses moving around in the background for what is a few seconds worth of a shot. But these little things really do add up and contribute to the immersiveness of Deadwood, one of its best attributes. One thing I've noticed is that Deadwood is a series that when you finish a season, you think, okay, well, that was great, and you move on with your life. But after a while, you start to think about the characters while you're going about your business. You start to think about the town, and you want to revisit it again. I had this experience with both the first and second season of Deadwood. It's like it calls to you a few days after you've watched it, yearning and egging you on to come back, like the shit-heel, flea-infested cocksucker that you are. I go into the third season knowing that the series was unexpectedly cancelled by HBO and the story wrapped up more than a decade later with the movie, so it'll be interesting to see what's in store. Thanks for watching.